So something else I wanted to mention just before you start watching the video, I was going to do a summary of IR35 and then I was going to do a CEST application example in the same video, but it turned out to be very, very long. So what I've done is I've chopped the video up into two parts. This part we're going to be talking about the IR35 summary, what it is, kind of like what it is, what to watch out for, what the new reforms are coming in, and then in video 2 we'll be talking about the actual CEST application, and I will put the link up there in the top left, or your top right even, so that you can click that and you can look at the CEST example application if you're interested in that. Hello and welcome to Bradio's Software Development. My name is Brad, and today we're going to be talking about the elephant in the room this year for contractors. It's IR35. So IR35, for those of you who don't know, is going to be a massive, massive blow to the contractor market. They've already done it to the public sector in 2017. My last contract was actually a public sector role, but I wasn't caught within IR35 because of the way that you operate. The whole thing about IR35 is it's all about the way that you operate as a self-employed contractor. They've been trying to do it for years, but they pushed it back last year due to the coronavirus pandemic, and now it's all come back again this year. Rishi's going to announce his budget on the 3rd of March, which is exactly 2 days as the time of recording, and he's had no mention of IR35 changes. So there's almost a 99% chance that this is going to happen, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. So I thought I'd just discuss what IR35 is. So even though I've been a contractor for 4 years now, coming on almost 4 years now I've been a contractor, I didn't actually know anything about IR35, and in fact my first gig was inside IR35. Reason was because I had no idea what it was. I was like, I just wanted to get into contracting. I was like, yeah, okay, we'll do this. We'll get paid. But then I realised I couldn't claim any of my travel. For those of you who don't know, if you're permanent employed, you can't claim on mileage because you're going to one single place of work. So as a contractor before the pandemic, I was going into the office every day on my previous contracts, except for my last one, which was like 70% remote. So it's a bit of a sore subject, and I do know a lot of people who actually fall into this category, and I think the government are right to penalise these people, but there's some people who work as a contractor at the same place for 5 years. And obviously if you're working somewhere at the same place for 5 years, day in, day out, and you get your own laptop provided for you, and then you're still claiming your expenses and your travel allowances and stuff, that's a bit cheeky. As a consultant, you shouldn't be somewhere for 5 years. I mean, fair enough, you might have a client for 5 years, but you might only be doing like one day a week or something, or one day every quarter or something like that. So it's all about how many different clients you bill over a set period, and it's also dependent on whether or not they provide the equipment. So like, as a contractor, I have to provide my own equipment, right? So I have to provide my own laptop. If I need software, I need to pay for my own software. If I need to travel somewhere, I need to pay for my own travel. I don't get paid for it. If I need to stay in a hotel, you can get paid out for hotel use, but it's not very often that they do that. So my last contract, we had to go 1 day a week, and it was quite far away. So the government actually paid for all of us to stay in a hotel overnight because we had to travel quite far. So there is a lot of flags that do deem you inside or outside of IR35. So this website's really great. It's called contractoruk.com. They've got all the latest news for contractors, and there's a lot of information on here. So as you can see here, what I said earlier, there's IR off payroll reforms, and it was introduced in the public sector in April 2017. So they got hit pretty hard, and that was the same year that I started contracting. So I missed that by about 4 months or so. But in 2018, they announced they were going to do it again to the private sector, and now it's finally taken them until 2021 to actually do it, because they couldn't do it last year because of the pandemic. The legislation was designed to stop contractors working as disguised employees, exactly what I've been talking about, by taxing them at a similar rate to employment. So yeah, that's exactly what I've been talking about. So it says here, there are increased risks and responsibility that come from contracting, the lack of employee benefits. Self-employed people, they don't get holiday, they don't get sick pay, they don't get maternity or paternity, they don't get anything like that, which is why contractors benefit from tax advantages. So it does kind of make sense. If you're a contractor or a consultant and you're not going to be claiming holiday, maternity, paternity, anything like that, then obviously you claim tax back on things, because then that's sort of like your holiday or like your sick pay. Therefore, if you're deemed to be working as a contractor without accepting the increased responsibilities, you're not entitled to these tax advantages 100%. So as I said earlier, if you are a contractor who's working at the same client for 5 years, you get your own laptop and stuff, you should not be claiming tax. That is just really cheeky. I don't agree with it at all. I really don't. And it gives all of us, proper contractors a bad name. I have known a few people like this, which is the scary thing. So these are the sort of people that the government are going after. Under the current IR35 rules, contractors are responsible for determining their own IR35 status, and the risk of non-compliance lies with them. However, from April 2021, the legislation puts the burden of responsibility on the entity that pays the contractor. This is a new tax burden on all client businesses engaging contact workers in the private sector, with the exception of small companies. So what this means, in layman's terms, is before April 2021, if you are a contractor and you're not meant to be, so you're meant to be full-time employed, and then the government do an investigation into you because they're like, you're a disguised employee, all of the tax that you earned at that contract and possibly previous contracts, you have to pay for. So if you claimed £5,000 in tax from the last contract and they deem you inside IR35, you'll have to pay all of that tax back because you weren't meant to have claimed it in the first place. But what this is saying, in April 2021, the burden of somebody who gets found out to be IR35 is actually going on to the company that you invoice. So say I invoice a client £5,000 and then I get deemed inside IR35, and that company will get charged all of the tax that I would have had to pay. So why does this affect you? Well, really, nothing's changed. All of these rules have already been in place for like 3 years now. There's hardly any changes from what I can see. Because the burden has been moved from you as an individual onto the client that you're charging, they are basically blanket rolling everybody in IR35. So they now have to go inside IR35, which means they can't claim any expenses. So something that's quite not as well known is that essentially, if you get found out for being IR35 and you class yourself and you decide to go inside IR35, but you're still at the same contract, they can actually take the tax back for the whole of the contract that you just worked at. So if you work for somewhere for 6 months and you say, okay, these IR35 guidelines come out, they're blanket rolling everyone IR35, I'm now going to go in IR35. Well, the government will be like, well, hang on a minute. If you're now IR35, but you wasn't before, but you're at the same contract, then surely you should have been paying tax for those last 6 months. So they'll come after you for the tax. But it's going to absolutely kill business, because what people don't realise is, I think, something like 60% of like all banks like rely on contractors or something like that, or like 60% of all the workers at a bank are contractors. So what happens if they go inside IR35? They're either going to have to go perm for way more money to make up the loss that the contractor is going to make, or all the contractors are going to leave and then all of the projects are going to fail at the banks. So, what do? And also, I use banks as an example, but it's not just banks. I have got another point about small business, because if you're working for a small business that's like, I think it's 500 or less, then you don't get deemed inside IR35, because technically you're working as a consultant in a small company, so you won't get IR35'd. So that's good. So I've actually just realised when editing this video that I was actually wrong about that point. So you can still get deemed inside IR35, it's just that the burden is put on the individual and not on the company you're working for. So you can still get done for IR35 if you're working in a company of less than 500. However, the burden of proof is on you and not the client. So the client is completely safe, which therefore means that they're more likely to take on outside IR35 contractors because they don't care about you. And if you get caught as IR35, that's completely up to you and it's your problem. So that's pretty much my summary video on IR35. As I said in the beginning, it's going to be a two-parter, so I'm sorry if it ended abruptly, but that's because it's one video, but I've just split it in the middle. And I just think it's easier for people to watch the video, basically, if I split it into two. Otherwise, it's going to be like, 50 minutes long or something. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps my channel out. As I said last time, I have an Instagram, and I have a Reddit, and I have an Odyssey, in case you don't like YouTube. So search up BraddyOSD on there. I'm going to be doing the other video now, and that will be coming out tomorrow, so look forward to that. And I'm going to do a CEST example form, so if anyone's out there in the contractor world who is worried about what to answer and what options you should pick, then hopefully this video will help you out. So I'll be releasing that tomorrow. So thanks for watching, I hope it was useful, and stay safe out there in the IR35 contractor world, and I'll catch you in the next video.